Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a continuation of my last video. Here to give you how I came upon these facts, and this video is gonna be a little longer than the last. But I have just one thing to ask you: if you believe in helping people out, if you believe in helping kids out from a dire situation, please watch the video to the very end. I have very important information. And nowadays, the raza, we all have a cousin, a primo, a mom, a dad, an uncle, a grandpa in law enforcement, in the military, whatever it may be. And you know, uh, once you hear this information, all I can ask is that I hope you reach out and make something of this, and hopefully, uh, my troubles will be able to help somebody out. So my name is Luis Diaz. I was born 12/8/1981. Here we go. So before I was released from prison, um, I constantly would be approached by COs who would tell me that doctors thought that I was fly, but I didn't have no idea what they were talking about, as I never would see the doctor. I've only seen nurses, for about 13 years. They would tell me that I had, they would also tell me that I had two women who would follow me everywhere I went, every prison I went to. In 2013, before the California hunger strike, I was approached uh, by a few different people, one of them being my neighbor at the time. Uh, he mentioned that there was two women that were friends of mine that had access to my files and could help me out if I cooperated with them. I denied to help them out, and I was eventually ran off the yard. They tried to assault me, and uh, the the officers at the time didn't do anything, and I wasn't wanted by the Mexicans on that yard. I ended up moving to a hospital unit in prison in San Diego, California. Uh, About a day after I got there, I was administered a shot that immediately dropped me. I thought I had died, and I woke up to a man desperately screaming at the top of his lungs for me to get up and to sit up and not to lay down. I felt like he was trying to help me, so I stayed awake as long as I could. After this, I was being harassed to come out my cell, and finally I couldn't take it, so I came out. I was met by two different white doctors who were definitely above the pay grade of anybody I had ever seen in the last 13 years. They were like super clean cut, and you could tell that just they, a prison wasn't their environment. Um, the first was a tall white man with blue eyes. He was probably 6'5", 6'7". Uh, he tried to question me, but I didn't understand what he was saying. I felt like he was talking in code, so I didn't want to hear him, and I just came back to my cell. The second was a redheaded female doctor who was also trying to talk to me in code, but I didn't understand what she was saying. They had me doped up on like what they said were medication, but I don't know what they were giving me. All I could remember is that she had on a pair of Superman socks, like with the Superman insignia, the S, one on each leg, like in her shin area, and she made a gesture to make sure that I seen them. Um, she then shoved a bunch of papers in my face to sign, and I usually don't sign stuff, but I felt like I was being given an ultimatum, and I wasn't really in my right state of mind, so I signed them, and just so they could leave me alone. A few days later, in the morning during breakfast, I noticed uh, that they brought in a man, African American man, who who uh, who I recall to be one of the ex-managers of the Atlanta Braves. He came in, uh, and he came to my door as they were serving breakfast. The ladies at the time had a tray with a coffee cup on it, and he tried to hand me the coffee cup. I realized that something wrong was going on at something that I didn't understand. And I remember seeing a sign that said USA behind my window, so I felt like this was the government, trying to do something, which I couldn't understand, so I refused. Later that day, I came to my cell door window and I locked eyes with my estranged stepsister, and realized that the women everybody had been telling me about were her, by the name of Reina Diaz, and her mom Maria Diaz, who I never got along with. Uh, Later on, after being released from that hospital, I was warned to be careful, as you know they verified my beliefs and they said that I had angered that side of my family, and that when they told me that, I recalled that earlier in about 2006, I was charged with a crime, and the lawyer, she started talking to me about my past like if she knew me. And later on, she told me, hey, a judge has called up here and asked a favor, so we're gonna give a deal to you. And I don't know no judges or anything like that, so I felt like I didn't know what she was talking about. But they were threatening me with 25 years to life on a case that they shouldn't have picked up, so I had no choice but to take the deal. Turn out, back to 2013, after being released from the hospital, it turns out that the warnings were correct, as I started being roughed up by COs and being attacked by random inmates. As soon as I got out, I was befriended by, as soon as I got out of prison, I started being befriended by multiple female informants, confidential informants. I knew this immediately as they started asking me questions about the Mexican mafia, and which strangely pressed me on religion, like trying to force me into choosing a religion when you know I didn't want to answer those questions. And I hadn't been out that long, so I would stay with them. And after a while, I started noticing that they all had brand new cars, and they all would open up to me about being in debt with quote unquote the IRS, and would immediately ask me about drug running and prison. This showed me that they were connected to my estranged family, as uh, during that time of the hunger strike, they were running a RICO indictment named 30 Thirds, and so I was worried. Uh, but then I realized that it had been 7 years since this had happened, or like 5 years, excuse me, and I didn't have no ties to the Mexican mafia. So why were these women pressing me, and why were they pressing me on religion? And if they had troubles or owed money, why would they all have brand new cars? You know? So I started thinking, well, maybe they couldn't label me as a gang member, so they were trying to label me as a religious radicalist. But the only God I believe in is the Creator, in which you know I give thanks to by praising the Son. And I believe that He was placed here for everyone, regardless of color. So I don't draw no color lines, and I'm not associated with a specific group. Um, but as they continue to press me on religion, I felt like something was wrong, and this raised uh, red flags. And I believe that they just wanted me off the streets because of my leadership skills that I had shown for the past 18 something years. About a year and a half later, I went on a date with a set of bisexual women. We went to a restaurant called El Chingon in San Bernardino, and they took me to the Marriott Hotel. Now, this is the place where my estranged father supposedly worked. Um, in the morning, we went to grab coffee, and they began mentioning that one of them had really grew up in San Diego, not where she had originally told me, and that she had moved out since, but that her family had given her a lot of green, and if I wanted it, I could have it. It was in the trunk, and if I did take it, they would take me with them to their family's ranch. Now, immediately I took this as they were offering money to take me somewhere, and they were connected with my family, who was obviously from San Diego. This is when I realized that, oh man, things are bigger than I realized, and they were sending me people with double-ended messages, but I still didn't understand why they wanted to take me with them. Uh, I was thinking possibly political reasons, you know, but I wasn't sure. After I refused, um, after I refused the money that time, I was I was jumped not too long later by four guys at a shark bar in Moreno Valley. Luckily my younger brother was there to give me a hand. Uh, after we after the fight, the scuffle, we got in a car and we took off, and we got chased by these guys that were driving a black Mercedes Benz. This is important, as you'll see later. Now, soon after this, my brother, uh, who I lived with, was hit with the child support. Was hit with child support, and I remember that his his baby's the mother of his children had been a drug user, and I seen it. To me, I seen it as a clear message that the government or estranged family, the same thing. Uh, we're gonna start using people around me to try to force me into something. Sometime after this, I went on a date with who I believe was a agent named Brenda, who attempted to set up a meeting with me to find a restaurant by the name of the Cave or La Cueva, and to drive towards Utah, and they would find me, uh, as they were always watching me. So she pretty much threatened me and said that I wouldn't be cut loose and I wouldn't be allowed to request my Department of Justice files. But I refused. Around this time, I ran into a CO from San Diego who literally told me to be quiet and don't say anything. Around this time, all this COVID stuff started happening. So I started coordinating things like, man, something's going on. Something bigger is going on, bigger than me. Um, so I was a little spooked, but I also knew to start paying attention. Soon after this, my brother's landlord told me that he had to move out. But before he had to move out, that he wanted to speak to me and only me. In the 2 years there, I had never met him, never talked to him, I never seen him. Uh, so this was, you know, super strange. I didn't know what to think about it until I started seeing, when I was at work, I started seeing that he was leaving Michelob Ultra bottles around the house. And so, uh, like I said, I was being sent double-ended messages, and I believed that this was a sign of ultimatum. Um, and he started talking to me about being pressed, that he had so many houses, but they were going to foreclose on this house. And so I realized what he was saying, that, either they were pressing him or they were pressing me. And he began by saying, he kept saying retirement, retirement, retirement this, retirement that. In Spanish, it means retírate. It's a strong way of saying get out of here. It's almost like saying get the F out of here. So I know I was being threatened. And I knew that this was my estranged family trying to force me into a position, whether it's, if I don't listen, uh, then the people around me were going to be starting to be affected. But I just decided to move. I moved away. Around this same time, uh, I went to contact my mom to see how they were doing, and they told me the same thing, that they were asking them to move out, and pretty much it was, you gotta move. You have to move if your son doesn't move. So this is I don't know who these people are, but they were big, uh, and it just gets bigger. So after around this time, I started dating a girl who I met on Instagram, with the Instagram name Mary Lovano, which is probably a alias. Same story, except this time she says she works for FedEx, that she's in trouble with the law. She has an ex that was in prison. That she shares a one-room apartment with her two kids and son-in-law. But obviously, off the top, I realized she has a brand new 2020 Jeep Cherokee. So you see where this is going, right? How are you in these circumstances, but you have enough money to buy this brand new SUV? The pieces just didn't fit, and it just occurred to the past stories that these were people that were being bought off or forced to approach me. After I spent the night with her, one day, she grabbed a hotel room right across from the bar that the only place I ever really went in Moreno Valley. And I never told her that, so I obviously knew that it was a statement, you know. Uh, the next morning, she asked me to go to the beach with her, and she said she wanted to go to a beach in San Diego. So I was like, bingo, here we go. Uh, at this point, I started realizing I'm gonna have to start searching for answers. So I started paying attention. And the way to the beach, she asked me what Marie asked me what religion I was, and I didn't want to answer. You know, I said I didn't claim a specific religion. You know, as that causes separation between people. And you know, she didn't drop the subject. She kept asking me until I gave her an answer. She asked me like 3 or 4 times, and she was adamant about getting an answer. And she finally asked if I was Catholic. And inside, I thought, damn, you know, she must be a religious fanatic or something. But not a couple minutes later, uh, on the highway, we passed the sign that says Rancho Peñasquitos in San Diego, which is the city my strange family is from. And she pointed straight at the sign and said, "This could be all yours if you cooperate." You know, this is when I was taken aback. I realized that my strange family, first of all, would not leave me alone. Second of all, they were some kind of fanatics, religious or what have you, and they were part of the government, which was even a bigger word for me. Uh, I'm starting to think that at this time that my stepsister was in love with me or obsessed with me, or that one of those doctors and they were her friends, as you know, I seen them at the same time. And I realized that they had been trying to that they knew something that I didn't know, and they had government ties. And well, anyways, I declined the offer, and I started to think, well, geez, no one is doing anything about this lockdown. Everyone's just accepting what these liars are telling us. And, you know, maybe I could follow these leads and do what I knew best, which is being a Chicano activist. I'm already in too deep, and um, you know, I felt like my life could end at any moment, and I might as well get as much information as I can out there right now. So I started planning on looking for this place, which was the cave or the Cueva restaurant. I needed to get my cars ready because I didn't know which one I was gonna take. So I took my car, my Mazda 6, to a place in San Jacinto to get a smog check. The only person who knows I was there was this girl, Marie, and she kept asking where it was at exactly, and when I was gonna be there. And when I got to this place, they gave me the runaround for about 3 days. The last time I pulled in there, they took my car inside. They pulled the car behind it, and a black Mercedes parked on the curve. It's when I seen the black Mercedes, I knew I was in trouble. So I kept my guard up. I kept my back against the wall. You know, I act like I was recording the license plates, and I just, you know, put my hand in my pocket like if I had a knife or something, which I didn't. But these guys try to lure me into the shop, acting like they lost something, and you know, if I could help them out. But I knew what was going on, so I didn't go inside. Uh, After about 4 hours, I was like, man, I can't wait around anymore. I seen some guy that they signaled to across the street jump into one of those space rental places. So to me, it was obvious that I was gonna attempt to be kidnapped because this had happened to me before at a motel where they try to kidnap me. So you know, I told the guys at the small shop, look, man, I need my car. I need it right now. Uh, this is enough. Uh, so finally, they finished up, and before they pulled out my car, one of the mechanics there, he came up on the other side of the car, and he directly told me, you know, you say you didn't do anything, but I know that you did. And this solidified the fact that you know, the government and my strange family were using washed up gang members to try to push me around. not just inside, but on the streets now also. And after I had escaped this, a few days later, that girl Marie, she told me a story of how she came home and to her stepson and all the gangster friends were just they're kicking it, and that how she ran them off, and luckily nothing else happened to them. Uh, and I knew that was my estranged family sending a message trying to perpetrate that they were protecting me, but I knew that they were using propaganda like a good cop, bad cop, type of thing. Uh, and it just gets worse from here. So please stand by. Um, so now I decide, well, I have no choice. I gotta go look for this place. I take off towards Utah, waiting to make contact. I drove all the way up to Nebraska. Finally stopped at a gas station where I made a contact. I slept in my truck. As I slept in my truck, I heard this people started speaking. Um, they told me to go inside. I went inside. I grabbed some ice creams, and in the background, uh, they said just drive back to California, towards California, and everything will be all right. So now I jump in my truck and I head back towards California. Not even 5 minutes after leaving the gas station, I noticed a caravan of what seemed to be all German cars with white occupants. Uh, they began escorting me headed towards California from Nebraska. It was a caravan. Uh, I noticed people. After a while, I noticed people with trucks and razors, and so these guys were out camping. But it was at least 100 cars, if not more. And when they weren't trucks, they were German cars. So I knew this was something was going on. They had some type of meeting. They were coming back, and they were waiting for me. They were waiting for me. I was pretty much escorted all the way up back to Utah. After Utah, I started following what seemed to be 3 cars. Uh, we went up some back roads until we started up Route 24, going up the Utah mountain. It was pretty steep roads, and by the looks of it, there was only one way up there. Uh, every car that came down the opposite direction was a Mercedes van, car, or SUVs. I started feeling worried, and I flashed back. Uh, First, I flashed back to the Mercedes cars that were following me, and they were waiting for me at the smoke shop. Then I flashed back to the hospital, and the girl with the Superman socks. If you read both of the socks together, it says SS, uh, like the SS from Nazi Germany. So I really started getting worried. Uh, I know it sounds crazy to you, but it did to me too, even more so. And I thought about turning back, but I had less than a quarter of tank in an old Chevy truck, and I said, "Well, this is a situation where I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't." So I drove as far as I could, uh, and I drove as far as I could. But not shortly after, I thought I was gonna run out of gas. I heard a sound come from my glove box, and it sounded like I could hear the couple I was following, which was a man and woman, and they were talking something about a gas station. At first, I was confused because how could I hear this voice? And this made me realize that, oh man, these guys have some type of military grade technology, uh, up in these mountains. So I didn't see towers or anything. So I made sure to keep my eyes open I felt like they were probably listening to me. Uh, So I kept driving. We drove all the way up past a city named Loa, Loa, into a city named Torrey, Torrey. It was about 5 minutes before hitting the Days Inn in Torrey, Utah, on Route 24. I got stranded about 5 minutes before that gas station, or it's a gas station and motel. Uh, Around this time, I was stuck on the street, and I was trying to figure out what to do. As I was waiting, I stepped out on the side of the road, and I started looking over the right hand shoulder. It appears to be clear like a clear valley, like there's nothing there, uh, and you could see all the way to the mountains. But I noticed something, so I took a little closer look, and I seen what I believe to be an offset wall, uh, and what looked to be like a man-made trench. So you couldn't get close enough to look over it, but it was blended into the background. And as I'm doing this, young kids are driving up in brand new cars and trucks, uh, mostly brand new full-size trucks, asking me if I was okay and trying to grab my attention off of what I was looking at. So first I thought to myself, well, all these young kids, 18, 19-year-olds with these expensive ass trucks, there's no warehouses, no buildings, no work sites for at least an hour to 2 hours in any direction. So where are they getting this money from? Second, uh, I as they would leave, uh, I would try to look back in this direction and figure out what's going on. So I looked over the shoulder again, and I'm just over 6'2", and I could barely see what's there, as if they purposely created a optical illusion. I then noticed some power lines in the distance, which looked like power lines, enough power lines to run a whole city, like the Los Angeles type city, Moreno Valley, where they're pushing high power. But I didn't see no buildings or anything like that. So I was asking myself, where are those? Where is that going to, and why is it recessed and attempt to be hidden? Uh, and like I said, I was just tall enough to notice over this apparent wall the edge of some buildings. That's when I realized that they have an underground city there, where you could the type where the top of the building is barely over the land and barely sticks out, but there's much more under this. And I know that firsthand as I went to an elementary school, called Moffett Elementary, that was built exactly like this, except this was much bigger, on a much bigger scale. And with the military technology and this, things are starting to get. I'm starting to get worried. So I started paying. At this time, I'm like, man, I better start paying attention. I start looking at the people that are coming down from Upper Torrey, and I noticed that the people that were coming down in the cars, there was at least 3 or 4 down syndrome kids within about 15 minutes. And I thought, well, that was a strange amount of people in such a small amount of time. So I started paying attention even more, and I realized that I seen younger women with older men in cars by themselves. Uh, and this brought question to what was going on. Anyhow, finally, a Mexican guy, uh, he drove up to me and asked me if on a motorcycle and asked me if I wanted some help and if I wanted if he could take me to the gas station. We went up to the gas station. He didn't say anything the whole time. When he was dropping me off, he asked me what I was looking for, and I mentioned that I was having problems at home and was looking for work. The only thing he told me that he wasn't from around here, but if I liked young fresh vagina, there was plenty, and that he drove up here from San Diego whenever he wanted some. He then told me to make sure I grabbed something to eat tonight. Those were both signs that I had made contact with my estranged family, as they were the ones who sent me to find the restaurant, and they were from San Diego. As I went up the road about 5 to 8 minutes, no more, I tried to check into the Days Inn hotel. They told me that they had no room, but a place for me, but they had a place for me up the road. Uh, yeah, the guy called in to the Nor Hotel, and he said that they had a room ready for me. When I got to the hotel, the lady checked me in and she held up the white card, uh, and she told me this is the key, but she held it up like trying to give me a message with emphasis. Uh, as I checked into the room, I came out for dinner. When I got there, there was about a family of eight. I was sitting behind, sitting directly facing what looked like to be the mother and her daughter. The lady was maybe 60 years old, and the daughter was 19 to 20 years old. There was two couples and two other girls around the table. As I sat there, the young Hispanic waiter approached me. I could tell he was nervous as he was stuttering and fumbling stuff. He continued to look at the mother and the daughter back towards me, and I took this as a signal to pay attention. As soon as I started paying attention, the daughter raised her phone to take a picture, as if to take a picture of me, being kind of sneaky, but not really. I took this as a sign of like hi or listen. So I began listening, and I hear them start bantering back and forth about me, how one found me attractive, and how the mother said that I needed to be cleaned up. Finally, I overheard the waiter say that she was waiting for me. So I got up and introduced myself to the family. As I sat back down, I really couldn't catch the next signal. Then I overheard the daughter say something like her mom was tripping, and I heard the mom say something about incest. As they got up, the daughter looked at me and she said to come out tomorrow morning. I'll be waiting for you. As I went back from the room to the parking lot, uh, I noticed that it was full. But when I got up in the morning for breakfast, the whole entire motel was empty. I seemed like I was the only one there. I went to the room that offered me free breakfast. I entered through the inside door. As I entered through the inside door, as soon as I walked in, a young girl no older than 12 entered the room dressed in all white. Uh, she looked at me briefly and didn't want to put her face down and looked. She looked at me briefly and she put her face down as if in shame. And I thought to myself, "Oh no, what the hell is this?" But I was confused and I waited around to grab something to eat. And then I recalled that after speaking to the gentleman on the motorcycle, uh, and I entered my truck, there was a MRI with a stamp that said to be used during wartime, and it looked brand new. There was also a note that said a girl in white clothes, and there was a packet of purple Skittles. In the underworld, Skittles refers to girls with undeveloped breasts or kids. And I remember my sister had a crew of young women showing me the cracks of their butts wearing purple clothing while I was at the hospital. To me, seeing this young woman and all the signs before, it meant that they were trying to invite me into their cult. And although they were pushing Catholicism, it seemed to me that they were using, Moors, and that they were all the same, and that these people were pedophiles. So after this encounter with this girl, uh, I was left confused. I went back up to my room to gather my thoughts. Uh, I tried to start thinking back to what had just happened. I realized that the girl had came and walked next to me, as if inviting herself to me. Um, then I started thinking back, reflecting on everything I knew at this point. With the redhead and the blonde doctor, the SS socks, the Skittles, the motorcyclist remarks, my strange family, their cohorts pushing religion on me. Then I remembered about 2004, I received a letter from a woman that had wrote me about an offer that was on the table and how she was a strict Catholic. All the evidence that this all the evidence showed that this was a religious cult that involved multiple religions and, biggest of all, the U.S. government. I was now convinced that this was an underground military base who used religion as sex, like gangs, who were all into pedophilia. As I had I had a sense of danger, so I didn't leave the hotel or restaurant area but once. As I continued my day, I had lunch. I sat next to an older couple. It was two men and a woman. They changed my original seat from the day before. To me, indicated that I was to make contact with these older gentlemen. I was listening and I began to hear them speak about how this was a great place to retire, and they began using Spanish. There were older white people. There was nobody speaking Spanish. Uh, I felt like this was a direct indication to me that, hey, this is safe for me, a good place for you to be. I got up and introduced myself. Uh, as I was trying to pay attention to everybody and find the signal, uh, I heard somebody, a woman in the background, uh, mention loudly white rice. So I wanted to see if they were talking to me. I ordered white rice, and the gentleman said, "We don't have it here," with the emphasis on here. I asked if they made Spanish rice here, and they said, "Yes, we make it here." So you can't make Spanish rice without white rice. To me, it was an affirmation that they were offering me the little girl. For dinner, I overheard them recommending the same thing: white chicken, quesadillas, everything white. This to me became an indication of white flesh. The next morning, I came down for breakfast. Again, this time the same thing. As soon as I walked in, a girl came in the room, just me and her. The girl was about younger this time, about 8 to 10 years old. The same thing, white clothes. Uh, I didn't really know what to do. I went back up to my room and tried to figure out my next step. As I explored the immediate area, I noticed a few things. First, at the gas station, there was a yellow Jeep parked. At home, I watched a YouTube channel that followed around a yellow Jeep. I felt like this was both a sign of a threat and a sign that they had been watching me. One day, I took a walk at least 100 yards away from the building. I pulled out my phone to check the time, and my Chase Bank app had popped up on my phone. I had no apps on my phone at the time. Now I believe they were offering money. I looked around, there was no Wi-Fi towers. You couldn't see electrical lines to the buildings. There was no planes. I told myself this place surely must have a blanket over it. The type where when you look down on it from the satellites, that it's just a playback image and not a live feed. Uh, the nights were pitch black, and uh, the lights of the buildings were very dim, so you couldn't even see to the edge of the parking lot. And in any given place, I thought two things immediately. First, I was in danger, as if I didn't see any cameras or anything. But more so, I couldn't see if anybody would sneak up on me. And I have been they've attempted to kidnap me at least twice before, and I was able to see it coming. And this time I thought, well, man, I might not have a chance. Second is they could easily transport children, women, and supplies without anyone know it under the cover of darkness. Also, there was no visible law enforcement, no mask, no one smoking, no one drinking. After this, I decided this wasn't a safe place for me to be. I decided to leave. Upon doing so, my truck wouldn't start, which I thought was odd because I had checked it and everything before I left. Uh, I called AAA. AAA came up and said my starter wasn't working, but I knew my starter was good. It was running strong and there was no problem with it. He attempted to try to make me stay, and I forced him to try it again. Uh, he got the truck to turn on, but uh, he told me that I wouldn't make it out of here if I didn't stop Napa Blue at the Napa Blue with the Napa Blue sign. Uh, I'll write it down in the feed. So to me, it says if I didn't stop, I'll kidnap you, Lou. I'll write it down so you can see what I'm talking about. It was a direct threat. He pretty much told me that they were gonna come after me whether I wanted to or not. Uh, You know, like I said, I didn't know what was going on. I took it back home to my mother. I told them, "Hey, goodbye. If anything happens to me, I love you guys." I moved to Chicago immediately, where you know my brother is ex-military, so I was hoping like, well, shit. Hopefully they'll leave me alone. Um, as Same thing. A couple days later, my truck wouldn't turn on. The triple A guy came up and was fiddling with my truck, and he realized that the battery plugs were loosened, and I had previously tightened them myself, and I double checked them. So I believe that while at the Nor Hotel in Torrey, Utah, they had gotten into my truck and purposely loosened them, and they were going to attempt to kidnap me. That was a clear sign. You know, like I said, uh, all I could do is share this information with you. I don't know what's going on, but I feel that not only am I in danger, that the public at large is in danger, and that there's kids being abused, raped, and who knows what else. As it seems to me that in that area, they have their own law, but that they're connected to California and other parts of the government that we're not aware of. Like I said, my estranged family's name is Reina Diaz. Her mother is Maria Diaz, and my supposed father, uh, his name is Enrique Diaz, and I believe that they were all in on this as uh, officers and confidential informants and FBI agents have directly relayed messages from them and let me know that they were after me, and the law was after me also. Um, do what you can. Don't let this go. Uh, you know, something's going on. It's a struggle. Um, like I said, name's Luis Diaz, born 12/8/1981. Any more questions? I don't know if you guys want to even hear this. Feel free to get at me. Um, Fight the power, que viva la raza, and hopefully we can all can get out of this safely. Thank you.